2 decades, 3 decades late. How about your kids' K through 12 schools? York High School got this audio sent to us. York High School there in
Elmhurst.
leafy Elmhurst. Oh. So, yeah, a couple of teachers there. I mean, one is speaking, and she references 2 teachers. I'm not precisely sure which one is the teacher who's speaking to her class, but this was recorded in her class, where she talks about Jefferson and the assignment related to Jefferson and how critical of her approach Jefferson. Take a listen. And also, please note the tenor of her comments.
We gave you his writings so that you could see his ideology. He wrote the stuff. I'm not making this up. Okay? But the problem is, some people, they tell little 5'2" Miss DeLoreia and Miss DiTomaso, you better keep those facts locked up in the closet. We don't want our kids to know that. I want to ask you why. When we think about values, what are the values that are in the words? And what are the values in the secret facts? Those things do not want to coexist, right? There's a problem there. And we saw a problem in the founding. And if we can understand that there was a problem then, we, A, think of ourselves a little bit differently when we look in the mirror and say, oh, this guy is representative of all of us that are citizens of this country. We start to ask some questions, like if it wasn't true then, when did it become true, right? When were we living up to this? And that threatens certain values. There is a threat, okay? That threat, is the reason people do not want this story told, because it imperils a set of values that are in conflict with those promises. Period. That is a fact, okay? That is what we're asking you in the paper to deal with and reconcile. And to the extent that you know things about conversations going on in the world or the way our government is run, I'm not asking you to demonstrate something that I didn't teach you. So I'm not going to hold you accountable to that. But think about what you already know. Think about what you understand about those values being in tension, and about when at York High School we say, here's the facts, here's a broad story, and here's how the reality of this country coming to being looked, and what we've been trying to work towards ever since. And it's up to you to decide if we've gotten there or not, okay? But that's kind of what we're asking you to reckon with.
And 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. You know, that sounds in part like all, fair and square. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Reconcile the ideals laid out in the founding documents with how imperfect those ideals were abided from the nation's founding to present. Sure. Problem is, it starts from this straw man premise. Some people don't want you to know that Thomas Jefferson owned slaves, is essentially what she's saying. And that's just not true. I mean, again, point to any conservative anywhere, any parent anywhere who showed up at a school board meeting to address the critical race theory curriculum, who said, you're not allowed to say George Washington or Thomas Jefferson or any of the founding fathers owned slaves. We can't teach that. We have to present a sanitized version of who these men were who founded this nation. No one. I dare.
I don't think that it exists.
Present anyone. Anyone. It's a lie. This is a solution in search of a problem. Well, it's an ideology presented as a solution. And that whole riff, some people don't want Miss DeLoreia and Miss DiTomaso, I don't know who's who, to tell you these things. It's absurd. It's absurd. When you hear somebody say something like that, a couple of things. One, they're a identitarian hack, not an educator. And two, that they're in the business of trying to indoctrinate while, posturing all the right phrases. They have to create an enemy that doesn't exist, somebody that they're battling in a righteous manner in order to sell what they're asking you to believe. Because there just isn't the argument that she is suggesting is being made is not being made. So she is, presenting false information as the way to get her students to believe a very narrow, hyper-politicized, from an identitarian perspective, which is just the latest iteration of Marxism, version of our founding, and that should inform what they think about our country today. It's a little bit more subtle here than in some places, but the approach is the same. Or I should say the approach, and it's a little, the mission is the same. Where she's trying to take the students is the same. Parents are telling Miss DeLoreia and Miss DiTomaso that you can't say Jefferson owned slaves. You can't present any information that would cast Jefferson in a negative or questionable light. Okay, well, name the parents. Name them. And that's what you should always do when you show up to the school board meeting at York. Name it. Who is it? Who is it that doesn't want you to teach the complete history of Jefferson, of the nation's founding, of the founding fathers, of the institution of slavery, of Jim Crow laws, of the civil rights movement? In the context of the global slave trade, in the context of slavery that still exists in parts of this world, please see Communist China, for example. All of the texture you want to add. Give us who is making the argument against that, and specifically what you say their argument is. Who are these white supremacists afoot in the hallowed halls of York High School? Let's hear about them.